So we have Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox, and then we have Commissioner Squires will give the report on updated numbers. Chief Brown will talk a little bit about some of the law enforcement visits to businesses and the outreach they've done there, and then introduce the owner here of Rio Grande Cafe, Byron Loveall. And then we have Jason Mathis with Downtown Alliance and David Garbett with Pioneer Park Coalition representing the business community here in downtown. So that's the lineup.
Okay. So Lieutenant Governor?
Hey. Rod, I'm looking at you. All right, I'm just going to focus here. So you're the guy. I don't get to do that for very much longer. But we want to thank you guys for being here. We're very excited to be right down here at the Rio Grande talking about what's been happening this week. Over the last 4 days, we started Operation Rio Grande, phase 1 of Operation Rio Grande, which was focused on law enforcement and getting the drug trade out of the Rio Grande area. That has been our primary focus. Really excited to see the progress that has been made here. You'll hear more of those numbers in just a minute from Commissioner Squires and Chief Brown. But I want to give a special shout out to law enforcement, to the officers that have been down here working this area. They've been tremendous. Got great relationships with our friends experiencing homelessness here, and helping them to help us to get rid of the bad guys. I also want to thank the business community who has stuck with us through all of this. We know that there have been problems down here for a long time. They've expressed those concerns. They've been listened to. A lot of things have tried to be accomplished, haven't been as successful in the past, but we are committed. As mentioned before, this is a 2-year process, and we are here for the long haul. So we appreciate our business community. You're going to hear more from them in just a minute. I also want to let people know that tomorrow's news conference is going to be focused on phase 2. We're very excited that tomorrow there will be a significant increase in service providers and opportunities here, services available to our friends experiencing homelessness, mental health services, as well as drug addiction services that will be down here. Job training, all of the things that people need. We will see a significant increase, and some of that will be 24/7 for the foreseeable future. That's a big deal. More than ever, it's time for all of us to step up. And when I say all of us, that's not just the Rio Grande District. This isn't just about a geographic area. It's about Salt Lake City. It's about the Salt Lake Valley, the entire county. It's about neighboring communities. And it's about the entire state of Utah coming together to help solve a problem. One of the things that it does pain me to talk about are news reports that have mischaracterized the spread of homeless-related concerns throughout the valley. Now, we knew from day one that as law enforcement moved in, that some of the bad guys would move out, and some of the good people would move out as well. Some of those that sincerely need help and are looking for services might leave and move to other communities. Now, we were aware of that. We were prepared for that. Law enforcement officials, we have a mobile team. We have several mobile teams, actually, that are monitoring the spread of any type of criminal activity, and we are responding in real time to any of those threats. And what I can tell you is it's not spreading as much as we thought it would, and it's not spreading as much as has been reported by some. Now, if you were to listen to some media outlets and some in other communities, you would think that there has never been crime committed anywhere else but Rio Grande, and that the minute that Operation Rio Grande started, that suddenly there was now crime taking place in other areas. That's just not true. And so what we would ask, we need your help. We need you to do the research. If there is an increase in crime specifically related to this area, we are on top of it. If there's crime anywhere, we want that to be reported, and we will help with that. But we do have people experiencing homelessness everywhere in the state, not just in the Rio Grande area. They're in your communities, and we ask that you reach out, that you help. This is not about criminalizing homelessness, and we will push back and we will fight back against anybody that attempts to do that. This is about compassion. It's about giving people the services they need and helping people get back on their feet and find the American dream like all of us are trying to do. And so with that, we have had some great meetings with all of law enforcement across the valley. I think Commissioner Squires will talk more about that. We need the help. This is a collaborative effort, again, not just between the Speaker of the House, the Mayor of Salt Lake City, the Mayor of Salt Lake County, and the Governor's office and my office. This is a collaboration between all elected officials, all law enforcement officials, all faith-based officials in the state, and our incredible nonprofit community. All of us working together to help get people back on their feet and to make sure that the bad guys get put in jail where they need to be. So with that, we'll go ahead now, and I think Commissioner Squires is going to go next. We need to do a mic handoff, and then we'll take some questions afterwards. Okay?
And just pass around the mic again
Yeah,
after that.
yeah. We'll pass around the mic again after that.
Thank you. Got it. Good afternoon. My name's Keith Squires, and I serve as the Commissioner of the Utah Department of Public Safety. And as Lieutenant Governor Cox mentioned, we do have a lot of communication taking place right now with our fellow law enforcement administrators, not only throughout the Salt Lake Valley, but also around the state, just to make sure that everybody's coordinating and sharing information as far as their response and law enforcement services that are being provided that may be related to this activity that we're involved in here at Rio Grande in this area. I'll give you an update. This morning we finished our third 24-hour period, third day of engagement in Operation Rio Grande. We ended up again with today's totals were 229 physical custody arrests, and of those, again, no reports of the need to use force beyond what is normal for effecting an arrest. Of those 229 arrests, I can let you know that 18 of them have been felonies, 98 have been warrant arrests, 82 have been charges along with warrants, and others have just been other charges, and that number was 27. We've had 88 arrests for drug paraphernalia, and we have recovered one handgun, which was mentioned yesterday during one of those arrests. We're still averaging about 150 officers per day combined from the participating agencies. And one thing that I want to mention today, too, that our officers are tracking is, as you know, we're working with our partners at Social Services and Department of Human Services to have that resource with us as we're doing our services and be able to bring to bear if someone needs social services. To date, we had 74 referrals for those possible services. The officers also track whether those services were accepted or declined. And we had 36 that were accepted, 38 that were declined. And those services include the gambit of what's available in this area and through the state. The Road Home, of course, 4th Street Clinic, the Wiegand Center, and also Catholic Community Services. So that's a recap of law enforcement services for this 3-day period. Thank you.
Good. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. You know, I spend a lot of time in this neighborhood. I drive around, I look, I think, odd hours of the day, early in the morning, and often I go on walkabouts to talk about things, to talk to people and visit and see what's going on. And today was no exception. I started over at Caputo's Market. I walked in and I ran into Matt Caputo, and I said, "Matt, how are you doing?" With a big smile on his face, he says, "Hey, Chief, come here." He said, look out the front window. He said, "Look at that beautiful park." He said, "We had lost sight of the beauty of that park because all we focused on were the tents and the people." He said, "What a beautiful park." And I have to reiterate that. What a beautiful community and neighborhood. It really is. I walked over and I talked to Teresa Martin at Carlucci's. And she was busy with a customer, which is great. But she took time out of her day to walk over and grab me by the arm and say, Chief, thank you. It looks so good. It's so short into this, but she just says, I want to tell you it's different. You know, as we continued through the area, we received overwhelming support from the businesses that we talked to. They said, look, our business is up, the complaints are down, and we received a lot of compliments on how we, law enforcement, were interacting with everybody. As far as Commissioner Squires, we talk about the arrest, but again, I want to reiterate, this is a two-pronged approach. Tough on criminals, very compassionate for those who need the services. In the CCC, the Community Connection Center, yesterday they saw 59 people walk through the front door and receive services. In the field outreach, they were able to provide services to another 7 individuals that they were able to locate and find. And this is working side by side with law enforcement. I stopped on the corner and I watched 2 of our officers working side by side with a social worker from the CCC and the state as they were engaging an elderly woman who was confined to a wheelchair. She was very, very ill and she needed help. And they were able to get her into services, the medical treatment that she desperately needed. And so that is what we're doing down here. We're arresting criminals, but we're making this neighborhood better, one person at a time. And with that being said, we're standing in this beautiful Rio Grande Cafe. What an institution of this neighborhood for many, many years. I remember coming here in the early 80s, and I'm very, very glad it's still here. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Byron Loveall, the new owner of the Rio Grande Cafe.
Yeah. Hold it or either way.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. First, I want to thank all the law enforcement in the state for their efforts down here. We got involved with the Rio Grande back in February. The conditions were very unfavorable at the time. We started our remodel, our updating of the Rio Grande Cafe, and I remember one of the construction workers saying to me, the first time he came down here, he said, "This is the worst of humanity." And he said, "I don't mean the people on the street." He said, "I mean all of us that we would allow this to happen in our city, that we would not take steps to help the homeless and help them not be preyed upon by the criminals." And I think today's a great day because our city has responded, our law enforcement has responded, and we're showing compassion to those on the street that don't have what they need to get better in their lives. And we're also removing, as a city, those who are causing it to be very difficult for those people. It's a great day. Our business thanks everybody for being down here and helping out with this effort, and we're glad to be a part of it. We're glad to be a part of the Rio Grande neighborhood. I think it's very important for this city, for the state, that this neighborhood thrive and that it's not lost and that things improve here, because this is a very unique part of Salt Lake City. And thank you so much for being here.
Hi, my name's Jason Mathis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Alliance. 4 years ago, we went to the City Council and begged them to start addressing issues that we saw cropping up in the Pioneer Park neighborhood. At the time, Salt Lake City had just passed a large tax increase, and they were asking for ways to spend that money. And we knew that this neighborhood was in serious trouble and that the problem would only grow. At the time, Mayor Becker stepped up, tried to address the situation. Mayor Biskupski stepped up and tried to address the situation. And heaven knows, Chief Brown and his officers have done everything in their power with the resources they had to try to solve the situation. But in the end, Salt Lake City didn't have the resources necessary to address this. And the problem grew and grew and grew. And I can't tell you how grateful we are on behalf of the 2,500 businesses I represent downtown, that the state and the county are working with Salt Lake City to aggressively address this crisis. it became a serious crisis, heightened by some recent violence that we saw in this neighborhood. We are so thankful to state, county, and city leaders for stepping up. We're incredibly grateful to the law enforcement officers who do this job day in and day out. This is not an easy job to do. This is a difficult job to do, and we are very, very grateful for the work that they have put into this effort. As I thought about this over the past 4 years, nothing has caused me more sleepless nights than thinking about what was happening in this neighborhood and the real helpless feeling that we had about what to do, how to solve this problem. And I'll say this now, that if we ended just with law enforcement, we would be failing. That's why I'm so pleased that there is a social service component to this and that there is a jobs component to this. This is really just the first phase, and it truly was an important, critical first step to regain law and order in this neighborhood. On behalf of the Downtown Alliance, the businesses we represent, I mostly just want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you. This has helped to change the dynamic in this part of our downtown and throughout the larger community. And without the really constructive work of all levels of government, political leaders, law enforcement, we would not be where we are today. We could not be more grateful. I also just need to say thank you to Byron and the other business owners in this neighborhood. If you're sitting at home watching this, wondering how you can play a role in helping to change the dynamics in our city, come down and support a business in the Pioneer Park neighborhood. Come to the farmers market on Saturday or Tuesday. Come to a Twilight concert. Show that this is a neighborhood that matters to our city, where things are happening and we are on an upswing. That's something that you can do today to show that criminals are not going to take over this part of our city.
I'm David Garbett, Director of the Pioneer Park Coalition. I represent residents and businesses here in this neighborhood. And today, I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to our elected officials. Thank you to law enforcement officials. We are so excited and so pleased with the attention they are paying to this neighborhood. You've heard a lot about the problems that were here. We all know that this area had trouble. But Rio Grande Pioneer Park is an exciting, vibrant place. There is so much here. Everyone is welcome here. Residents, businesses, we want people to come down to this neighborhood. And we also know that our homeless neighbors need to come here to receive services. All we've asked is that this neighborhood be a place that is safe and welcoming to everyone. And we feel like with Operation Rio Grande, we've started down that path. We know that law enforcement is necessary. There were a lot of drug dealers, a lot of bad guys here. They need to be gone. At the same time, these problems won't be solved, and we've seen this firsthand, without compassion and without providing services to the people that need them. And we're so excited that that's the approach that we're hearing from law enforcement. That's the approach we're hearing from elected officials. This isn't a mission that they intend to end tomorrow. It's something that will last for the next 2 years. That's what it will take to address this problem. So is the mission accomplished? No. This isn't something that cropped up overnight and it won't be solved overnight. Is everything perfect yet? No. And we're here to help law enforcement and elected officials know what needs to be addressed. But we feel like they're listening. We feel like they're here. I have members that are so overjoyed to finally see the police in their neighborhood, talking with them, working with them to address problems. So we're very happy. We look forward to working on this problem for the next 2 years. Again, we know it'll take work, but we think we can get there. And we appreciate everyone coming together to solve this problem.
Okay, we can now open it up for questions. If you want to ask the question or if you have a specific person, and then we'll just repeat the question as it's been asked.
For law enforcement,
Both of you, step up.
gentlemen, with the large number of arrests, we've kind of heard some anecdotal stories that there's been some issues with processing people, that some people have been released because they haven't been able to get charges filed against them in a 72-hour period. Do you know if any of that's true? Are you able to talk to that?
I don't have that.
I've not received any information on that. We'll follow up with the jail and make sure, but that should come to us if that's happening.
And how are you dealing with sort of the, I mean, I know that there are limited beds at Salt Lake County Jail, so with this large number of influx of arrests, how are you dealing with making sure that we're not having just a catch and release program in place?
You got that one?
Yeah, thank you. The question is with the large number of arrests, how are we ensuring that this is just not a catch and release? Sorry. This isn't a catch and release type process. Well, it could be, but what we've been assured is that Sim Gill, once they enter jail and the charges are booked, he is then earmarking those and following up with them immediately so that there's not a gap in time before they're either required to appear in court. So they're being marked, and Sim is tracking these. When we've talked to him, he says he's looking to go the same time period we're here, from 18 months to 2 years, which is a lot of resources, dedicated on his part. It's huge.
Of the 229 arrests, do you know how many people are in custody currently?
I don't.
I don't have that information.
The lieutenant governor said reports are false, that there have been significant crime increases in other areas, or significant trouble in other areas. I just wanted to make sure I understood him. Maybe you could answer or he could. You were saying, so far, there's no increase in crime in any area that you know of, or no significant increase. There's crime before, there's crime now, but it's no bigger than it used to be.
Yeah, no, and to that point, we're tracking this very meticulously. I mean, we're asking people to call in and to give us any information if they should see, camping pop up in different neighborhoods. That's intel that we can feed into our command center, and built into this plan is a contingency to take our staff and our resources to those problems. And not just to make those arrests. Again, we can take the compassionate service of the social workers into any neighborhood in this county to help with those problems.
The commissioner said Tuesday, I believe, drug dealers abode, you know where they are. You still know, are they still doing business? You know where they are.
Will you talk about the operations, what we're doing every day to see where it's spreading?
Yes.
And you're meeting with the chiefs today?
Sure.
Yeah, Rod, I actually said that. But we do know,
that's right, you
we
did.
do know where
I
they go.
apologize.
I mean, listen, we're down here 24/7. We've been at this game for many, many years, and now we have added resources that the state has given us and UPD. And so we track those drug dealers, we know where they are, and there are operations and plans to chase them into any area they may go.
Have the drug sales moved? You say there's no big increase in crime. Are there increases? If I have one of these guys who used to come down here at night in my car and buy drugs, do you know where I'm going? And am I still going? Am I still able to get them? Are drug sales still going on somewhere else, not here?
Sure. I'll start, but turn time over to the chief. Your question is, are there still drug deals going on? And if so, are we addressing those? Yes. It would not be appropriate for me to say and tell you that there's no drug dealing going on in this area.
Is there more? Are there drug deals that used to be here that are now at another location and going on now?
I'm sure there are other drug deals taking place in other areas that may have been taking place here, but as the chief said, our officers are developing intel, we are receiving information, we are working with the other local agencies, and we are pursuing any of that activity. It's happening 24 hours a day.
You roused at the camps on 5th and 6th and around, a big difference. Do you know where the campers went?
We're following that, and again, that's part of the intel that we're going to receive from those that live in different areas. Earlier today, the commissioner and I had a meeting with all the police chiefs in this valley and reiterated to them, if you see or hear these increases in crime or camps, please let us know because we have the resource to address that. Going back to your initial question, though, it would be naive of us to think that we would think that addiction never sleeps. I mean, if you're addicted to heroin, you need heroin today, tomorrow, And if your dealer's not here, you'll be seeking that out. So with that in mind, we have followed that. Some of their tactics may have changed. They may have been trying to wait us out, but again, there's no way they can wait us out for 2 years.
Rod, let me address that too. When I said we haven't seen significant increases yet, that doesn't mean we don't expect to see some increases in some places. What I was referring to were a couple reports yesterday that were inaccurate or just plain false. One of those was in Tooele County. There was a report yesterday that Tooele County had seen a huge increase up some canyons as a direct result of this. When we reached out to the sheriff of Tooele County, he said that's not the case. We hadn't heard that. There was one person who saw a van of people go up there 2 weeks ago, well before we started this operation, and was blaming that on Operation Rio Grande. And so what I'm saying is, we know that we were prepared for this. We know that there will be increases. We know that they will go other places. What we're asking is for research and accuracy in the reporting, and more importantly, what we're asking is the public and public officials to communicate directly with us. Every time we've gotten notification of a potential crime in progress or a new encampment coming up, within 10 minutes our guys are there and they're dealing with the problem. We have extra resources available. We want to give that kind of support out there, but it doesn't help when we're getting false reports trying to for whatever reason, trying to put blame on this for things that aren't related to this at all.
Monday, I believe, I think, said Friday we're going to be handing out IDs. Are you still, you're going to be handing out IDs tomorrow?
That's correct, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We will. That will be part of the press conference tomorrow, but the answer is yes. That will begin tomorrow. That people, it's voluntary, but it will help them as they're accessing services. They'll have an opportunity to get an ID, which will help them in so many ways. Help to coordinate services, help to make sure that we're not duplicating services, and again, helping those that need the services to obtain the services that they desperately need.
It will also help you keep track of it.
It will, to some extent, yes, that's correct, and that's an important part of it. I'll tell you who doesn't want an ID. The people that don't want IDs are the people that are down here dealing drugs. They're not excited about getting an ID, but again, it's voluntary, and we're working with the service providers in the area. There is already an ID issued by Catholic Community Services. It will be very similar to that ID, but it will work for all the service providers.
When we interview people down here, a lot of times we're hearing the story, and this is not anything new, that you've all heard it before, but the opioid epidemic is leading people into the heroin trade.
Yeah.
How do we, law enforcement can do enforcement, but it's going to be up to the legislature and the state to deal with this crisis that's enveloping the nation.
And thank you for pointing that out. That piece isn't about Rio Grande. It's about our entire state. It's about our entire country. The national government's dealing with this. The state has been very proactive. If you look at the last 2 legislative sessions, but especially this last one, in looking for solutions. Nobody has a silver bullet for this one yet. We haven't figured it out, but we're committed to doing everything we can, because that's the problem. We've got to get, it starts with prescription drugs and it leads to heroin. And too many people on this street a year ago were living their lives and enjoying the American dream, and they had a back injury, they got hooked on pills, and now they're down here, they've lost everything, and they're trying to score $20 hits of heroin on a daily basis. And you're right, no amount of police enforcement is going to be able to solve that. We've got to do more.
Lieutenant Governor, just on Facebook, Jeremy Beckham says, I've noticed a much larger encampment of homeless people near my house on South Temple and 1000 West. Operation Rio Grande is pure theater to get good press. It's not a long-term solution. What is your response to that?
Well, my response is thank you. That's the kind of information we need. If you see new encampments, let us know. We'll get that address and that information, and law enforcement will go out there. This is not political theater. Let me assure you that if this was about political theater, I would not be standing here today. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't ask for it. None of us did. This is a big, big issue, and there's a reason it hasn't been solved. You can go back and look at articles from some of the people in this room from 15, 20 years ago, dealing with very similar problems. So we've had plenty of political theater. We're here for the long term, and we're here, again, for years. We've responded to every new encampment we've been told about, and we will respond to every new encampment, and we will do it for the next 2 years. Now, the reason 2 years is so important is that on June of 2019, we have a a mid-range plan that we've been working on for a couple years, and that is that we will be closing the road home. We will be opening 3 new resource centers. We will be changing the way we deliver services, and that's going to lead to a big reduction. Every study we've looked at will change the culture of what's happening. Now, the question is, what are we going to do between now and then? And that's what we're here to work on, and that's what we're here to solve. And we're not just here to push it somewhere else and then leave so the bad guys can come back down here. That's not what it's about. Now, that being said, again, the homeless services until 2019 are located down here. So there will be our friends experiencing homelessness down here. They will be here, and this is where we want them. This is where they need to be. So if we find them in a new encampment and they're not out there to deal drugs, we're going to bring them back here, and we're going to help them get into the road home. And by the way, we're cleaning up the road home too. I want to make that clear. That's an important part of this. We have people come to us and say, I don't feel that it's safe in the road home. And so we've been working directly with the road home. We're going to have some of our drug dogs down here to make sure that drugs are not getting in. The IDs will definitely help so that we know who people are and we can get them the help that they need. And that the people that need it the most will get down here. For every business that has thanked us for doing this, there are 10 people experiencing homelessness that have thanked us for doing this. Every day we walk down here, they say, it's about time, thank you, I didn't feel safe here, I do now.